everybody, it's Lonk the Sane, and it's good to have you all back on my channel once more. Well, as you can see, the production value has continued to improve as our Christmas tree is now decorated. We decorated this past week, and by we, I mean my wife, because I've actually been banned from doing such things, but this isn't a lifestyle vlog, this is Mythgard, so let's just get right into it. We are up to color number 4 in our color wheel series, and our color this week is going to be green. Now, green's faction within the game is known as the Dreni, and the Dreni are a military-based society. So the most talented young boys end up in the Volkov, which are the elite military group, and the most talented young girls, if they have an affinity for magic, end up in the Vedma, which is a group of witches. So green likes to combine military might with some magic in order to defeat its foes, and you would think because it's military-based there'd be a lot of destruction-type spells, but there actually isn't within green. Most of the spells tend to be more tempo-based, spells like Rewind Hex, or Detained, or Led Astray, things that'll bounce stuff back into the hand, or stun, or just generally slow down the opponent's minions without actually destroying them. And the military might is represented by having some of the biggest and scariest minions within all of Mythgard, and even some of the smaller units like the K9s, which are another military group. If you place the K9s adjacent to one another, they pump themselves up, they get larger. So, that's one way that green likes to win, but I think the most interesting thing about green is that it's the color that cares the most about the boneyard. You'll see spells like Wake the Bones, or minions like Shortstack and Hopeless Necromantic that can bring minions out of the boneyard and into your hand or onto the battlefield, and also spells like Raid the Tombs, which use the boneyard as a resource to do what they want to do. So overall, the feel of green is not quite as controlling as yellow is, but also not quite as fast as what orange is trying to do. So overall, I would say green is a mid-range color, but it's on the very controlling side of mid-range. So it's kind of a controlling mid-range color. And I think the best way to demonstrate that, as always, is to dive into a couple games and show you what it's all about. As always, I'm going to go through the deck real quick before we begin the action. Also, as always, if you like the deck and want to check it out for yourself, I will have a link in the description below. So this is a deck list I came up with, and I'm going to spice things up today, and we're going to do a mono green reanimator strategy. Why reanimator? 2 reasons. Reason the first, as I said in the intro, green is the color that cares the most about the boneyard, so reanimator really plays into that. So I wanted to show that aspect of mono green as well. And the other reason, and the most important reason of all, is reanimator is just a lot of fun to play. So because we're doing reanimator, our path is going to be Disc of Circadia. Now, Disc allows us to put a minion into our boneyard because reanimator centers around this card. We have 4 copies of Hopeless Necromantic in here. When a Necromantic dies, it will be replaced by the bottom minion of our boneyard. So the disc is a way we can put the minion into the boneyard, and then once our Hopeless Necromantic is destroyed, we'll get that minion onto the battlefield for free. The disc also, it's going to be flipping back and forth. We're going to be using our power to flip the disc. It's a little more complicated than some of the other paths, and unfortunately, I can't really show it from this screen. So once we get into the actual games itself, I'll go over the disc before I begin the replay. But since we need to play our power reliably on every turn, we're going to use Smite as our power. Other powers like Impel and Infuse require a minion to be on the battlefield, but we want to be able to play our power even if there is no minion. So it's either Smite or Foresight for a reanimator deck. And since our disc also gives us some divination, the Foresight is a bit redundant, so I think Smite's a better choice for a reanimator strategy. So onto the minions themselves. We've got 3 copies of Grinning Kolobok. This is the one that moves around, it gains energy, and then when it dies, it will ramp up our mana. So this is a way to get it into our bigger stuff more quickly. We have 2 copies of Wake the Bones. This is another way to get our minions out of the boneyard if need be. Then we have 2 copies of Born Again. It returns to our hand if it's in the boneyard at the end of the turn. So this is a pesky one for our opponents to remove. Also, sometimes with the disc, we'll need to be discarding a card, so we can discard the Born Again, and at the end of the turn, it'll come back to our hand anyway, so it's as if we never had to discard anything. Then we have 3 copies of Detained. This is a great tempo spell. We can give a minion -2/-0 and immobile until our next turn. When we play Detained, it'll put Deported into our hand, and the Deported allows us to bounce a minion to its owner's hand. So this is a great way to remove something off the battlefield temporarily if we need to. Then there's 3 copies of Gallows Boy, just a very solid 2-mana minion. It's warded, so it doesn't die to allow the removal. It also is Slayer 1, which makes it very strong in the early game against our opponent's minions. Then we have 2 copies of Raid the Tombs, which seems to go against what we're trying to do since it banishes the bottom 2 cards of the boneyard, and we're trying to put a minion onto the bottom of our boneyard. Ideally, we'll be playing this after we get our large minion back. That way, if we get a second Hopeless Necromantic, we can use this to filter out some of the smaller stuff. So if we do play a second Hopeless Necromantic, we'll bring back something a little bit bigger. And also, drawing 2 cards is always a good thing. Then we also have 1 copy of Bila the Witch Queen. She's a very good tempo generator herself. She can make our spells cost 1 less. She can stun another minion. And if we get all the way up to our brand, we'll draw a card every time we play a card. So this can be very powerful and take over a game if she's left unchecked. And then we have 4 copies of the aforementioned Hopeless Necromantic, the one that Reanimator revolves around. Then there's 2 copies of Led Astray. Like I said, green really doesn't have a lot of removal spells. It's more of a tempo type deck. So this one is kind of removal, also kind of tempo. We'll shuffle a minion into our opponent's deck. We don't know when that minion's coming back. It could be 2 turns later they get it back in their hand, or they might never see it again because it could go all the way to the bottom. But it only works on minions with 4 strength or less, so it is limited in what it can do. Like I said, green is not very strong with its removal. It's more of a tempo type play, but this is, one of those spells that can act as sort of both a tempo play and a removal spell. Then we have 2 copies of Leshy Green. It comes into play with strength and health equal to the number of minions in play, including itself. Then we have 2 copies of Venma Sky Ranger as Lurker, and for 2 green gems, not 2 mana, just the gems, it can get Agile and Rush until end of turn. Then we have 2 Avenging Alpha, which comes with additional 2 strength and health if 1 or more of our minions die during our opponent's last turn. Then we have 3 copies of Gamayune. It's Agile, Divination 2. Another very strong minion to play. Very tough for our opponents to block because it has Agile. And it also lets us filter out our card draws too. Then we have 2 copies of Volclav Heavy, Armor 1, and Overrun. Just a big, tough minion for our opponents to block to take out. It's also a good target for our Reanimator strategy. Then we have 1 copy of Trader's Murmur. Another removal / tempo type of play. It doesn't remove an enemy's minion. Instead, we'll just steal it for ourselves. Unlike Temptation, where it goes back into our opponent's hand at the end of the turn, this we just keep for ourselves permanently. So this can be a spell that turns the game around for us. Then we have 2 copies of Filja Wind Fury, Swift, Frenzy, Blast 2. This is another good target for our Reanimator strategy. When I say target, I mean a good card to discard from our hand to put at the bottom of our boneyard. If left unchecked, this can quickly wear down an opponent and take out some of their smaller minions. Then we have Shortstack, another good Reanimator target. It's an 8/8 with Overrun, and when it enters the battlefield, it returns a minion from our boneyard to our hand. So, also important to note that when it comes back to our hand, it does not give it ephemeral. So whatever we bring back, it's just bringing it back straight up. It's not getting ephemeral or anything like that. And also cannot take more than 3 damage in combat, so it's very tough for our opponent to block. Then we have another great target for our discard for the Reanimator. That's Iku Turso. And when Iku comes on the battlefield, it has Overrun, and the minion in the opposite lane has Defender and Immobile. So it's another one that's tough to block, and even if they do block, it has Overrun, so it can still damage the opponent. And finally, 2 copies of Indrik Beast, just 9/7 warded and Overrun. This is the ideal target for our Reanimator plan. If you put this in the bottom boneyard and get it out early in the match, a lot of times the opponents won't be able to deal with it. It'll be much larger than any of their minions. So with the overrun, we'll still do damage to the opponent and also ward it. It won't die to a removal spell very easily. So nice combination of tempo type plays and some big stompy minions to take out the opponent. And with that, I am done showing off the deck, and we'll get right into the games. Alright, as promised, here's a quick look at our path. Disc of Circadia is always going to start out on night, so the first time we use our power, it's going to flip over the day. When that happens, we'll discard a card, and all minions will have Slayer 1 as long as it's on day. And that includes our opponent's minions, so something to be mindful of. When we play the power the next time, the disc will flip over to night. We'll look at the top 2 cards of our library, put one of them into our hand, and then all our minions will heal for 1 at the end of the turn if they don't attack. That will remain in effect as long as it's night. When we play the power again, it'll flip back over to day, play the power again, flip back over to night, and so on and so forth. So this path is a little more complicated than some of the other ones. So you'll see, how it works as we play it out. And our opponent's going to be Frizzell, playing orange-yellow Aztec control. And our opening hand is not good. We have a couple of really big things, a bunch of really little things, not much in between. There's no Hopeless Necromantic, so this hand is all over the place, and it's just bad. But, unfortunately, nothing we can do, so let's see how this goes. And I'm going to take a bit of a risk right here at the beginning. Because I don't have the Hopeless Necromantic, I just want to ramp as quickly as possible. So I play the Grinning Kolobok. Hopefully they don't destroy it right away. Otherwise, that'll go to the bottom of our boneyard, and our reanimated plan will be up in smoke. Fortunately, I don't get punished here, though. And I'm going to play the power, flip the disc, and Aiku goes into the boneyard. So our reanimated plan is online. We just need to hope that we draw the Hopeless Necromantic. And the fact that our opponent is playing orange does not bode well for us. Orange has a lot of tools that can handle a reanimator plan. For example, there's Ghoul, which can banish minions out of the boneyard, or they could just play Seal of Exile on our Hopeless Necromantic and banish all 4 copies at once. So a lot of pitfalls to watch out for when playing orange. Our opponent's being aggressive here, putting his tokens and minions away from ours, trying to be as aggressive as possible. But we'll just hop over with the Grinning Kolobok, ramp up 2 mana, play the disc, and we'll draw Gammayun because we flipped over to night. So next time we flip the disc, we'll have to discard a card. Mesa Libre, that's going to stop our Leshy Green. Our opponent's going white here, just putting out as many minions as he can. I play the heavy, hoping they'll 2-for-1. They'll run 2 of them to take out our 1, but instead, we get Seal of Exiled, which is unfortunate. But hopefully that means they won't have one if we get the Hopeless Necromantic. Alright, spin the disc again. Now we'll have to discard a card. We're back on day, so everything has Slayer. And I play the Avenging Alpha in front of their minions, hoping once again they'll 2-for-1. And the opponent obliges. That's going to trim down their board a little bit, and we draw a Shortstack. That's very good for us, and we can play that Shortstack right away because we were able to ramp our mana with the Kolobok, and we'll bring Aiku out of the boneyard. So now the plan is just to go as big as possible, try to run him over with our big stompy minions. That's an orbital jamming satellite, so that's going to suppress our Shortstack, so now it doesn't have the overrun or the damage reduction. And our opponent's going to hit us with Armageddon Angel. Kind of figured they would. It's a control deck. It's turn 7 when they're playing orange, so I held on to this Traitorous Murmur, so I'm just going to outright steal the Armageddon Angel. They can play Venomfang Mutant in front of it. Then they're going to play Dark Passenger on the Venomfang Mutant. Bit of a mistake by the opponent. You don't want to play that out until you plan to use it, because now I can do something like this. I'll play Detained on the Venomfang Mutant so it does no damage. Then take it out with the Sky Ranger. Hit them with their own Angel. So they just play Dark Passenger, and weren't able to take out any of my minions, and the opponent's just going to scoop. So, interesting win for green there. The reanimator plan never really came together, so the plan switched over to, well, let me just run them over with the large stompy minions. We got a couple of them out, but then they dropped the Armageddon Angel, and instead the control side of green had to take over. We were able to Traitorous Murmur their Armageddon Angel, and then detain their Venom Fang Mutant to take it out. And we just kind of beat them down with their own Armageddon Angel until they said enough's enough. So, interesting win for green. Would have liked to show off the reanimator plan there, but instead we saw the other sides of it. They kind of took over and won us the match there. But can we get the reanimator plan to work? I don't know. Let's go on to game number 2, see what happens. Okay, in game number 2, our opponent's going to be Itsari, playing a red-purple mid-range vampire kind of deck. Our opening hand is better than last game, but still no Hopeless Necromantic, so overall just feels kind of meh. So, we'll just play this out, see what happens. And once again, I'm going to take the gamble turn 1, because I don't have the Hopeless Necromantic. I still want to try and ramp to my bigger stuff more quickly. And thankfully, once again, I get away without getting punished. Hop over, do some damage. Play the power, spin the disc. And Indrik Beast into the Boneyard. So the reanimator plan is online. Just gotta hope and pray we find that Hopeless Necromantic. That's a Kite Glider. Opponent can give his minions Agile if he chooses to. I'm gonna hop over twice here with the Kolbach. I'll offer the trade. Alright, play the power, spin the disc. That's a Bila. That's a great pickup. Right, that's a Frecky Huntress. But fortunately, I was able to ramp up 1 mana with the Kolbach, so I can play out the heavy in front of the Huntress. That's something the Huntress can't destroy and then mutate. Alright, that's a Rogue Eidolon. But fortunately, we have an answer with the Lead Astray, so this is not going to go the way the opponent wants it to. Bye-bye. Alright, destroy Huntress, get in for some damage, hit him with the power, spin the disc. We go back to days, so we discard a card, but Born Again comes right back. And that's why the Born Again's ability is so good, because essentially we get to spin the disc over the day for free now. We don't have to discard anything. Get in for 5 with the heavy. There's Bila. We'll stun the Duskwing so it can't get in for damage. And hello, Necromantic. We've been waiting for you. Alright, that's a Spirit Away on Bila, so bye-bye Bila. Alright, Gamion's a good pickup. Play out the Necromantic. Now, he can attack around it with the Duskwing Angel because the Angel has Agile, but hopefully during his turn we'll just be able to crash into the Duskwing to be able to get the Indrik Beast. And that's exactly what's going to happen. Alright, play out the Gamion. We'll detain the Lantern Colossus, so now we can't destroy our minions, but we can hit them with both. And I should have done that the other way. That way the heavy could have gotten him for a few damage, but so our reanimator plan worked. We didn't get it out ahead of schedule, but we got it out for free. We were able to do other stuff that turn, so that worked out well. That's Immolation Cloak on the Lantern Colossus, so there goes Leshy Green. Right, Wake the Bones, bring back Gamion. Now I'll just deport the Lantern Colossus, so we're getting in for 14. So Indrik Beast gets a nice big blow in there for us. Right, play out the Gamion. And that's a Spirit Away on Indrik Beast, so bye-bye Beast. That's also an 0-3 token in our deck. Now, important to pay attention to where our path is at. Because we are on night, our minions will regain 1 health if we don't attack. So I'll just not attack with the heavy. And now the Huntress can't take it out. That's an Oka Dodana. But the opponent doesn't realize that we have lethal on board here. Because the Valhalla has Swift, so we'll just move over, attack twice in the opponent. It also has Blast 2, so there goes the Oak. Then swing it with the Gamioon, and that's lethal. So, hooray, the reanimator plan worked. Albeit we didn't get our minion out early, but we were still able to get it out for free. That allowed us to, that turn, also play the Gamioon, also to put the Detained on the Lantern Colossus so we could hit with our Heavy and our Leshy Green to take it out. So, because we didn't have to pay any mana, we were able to make a huge play that turn, and that's, I think, where the game really swung. And not to mention, we were also able to attack the next turn for 9 damage with the Beast. So, yeah, that's what Green wants to do, especially with this reanimator strategy. We were able to bring our minion back from the graveyard. We also played the Wake the Bones to bring a Gamioon back too. So we got a lot of value out of our boneyard that time, and we were able to run them over with our big stompy minions. So between the two games, a good overall showing of what it is Green brings to the table. It's not exactly control. It's not exactly a fast mid-range deck, but it's a much more slow mid-range deck. But if it can get into the mid-game, get to its big minions, it can just run people right over. And with its mix of control-y type spells, like we saw Detain and Deport, very important there. Even Bila able to come in and stun was very important there too. There's just a lot of good stuff going on in Green. And if you can get in the mid-game with Green, it just kind of stomps all over the opponent, moves things out of the way. And yeah, those are a fun couple of games. And I think that's a good showing of what Green brings to the table. So we got to see all the things it is that Green likes to do. I know a lot of players like to think of Green as the other control color alongside of Yellow, but hopefully this video demonstrates that Green is just playing a very different game than Yellow is. Basically, Yellow wants to control the board first and then play out its big minions. Green wants to play out its big minions to control the board. Because we see a mechanic like Overrun. You can crash into your opponent's minions and still do damage to the opponent. Or you can use Grinning Kolobok or Hopeless Necromantic to, in the case of Kolobok, ramp up your mana and to play out your big things faster. Or in the case of the Necromantic, cheat something large out of the Boneyard into play before your opponents are ready to handle it. So Green's idea of controlling the board is by having the biggest, largest minions out there and hopefully having the opponent not have a good way to deal with them. But, that said, it doesn't quite have the same control elements that Yellow does. It doesn't have as good as life gain or card draw. But what Green is going to bring to the table is, like I said, the very large minions. It's got some good tempo spells to slow down your opponent's minions. And it also has that Boneyard recursion to bring stuff out of the Boneyard and into your hand and back on the battlefield. So if you want a color that's versatile but adds a little bit of control to it, then Green is the way to go. Or if you're just looking to play a deck that goes bigger than your opponent's minions, Green is also the way you want to go. So overall in this series, Green is one of the more fun colors that I've played so far. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed playing a mono green reanimator type strategy for those games. So that's going to be it for me this week. We will be back next week. It's going to be mono blue for the Color Wheel series. I should have a couple more videos coming out this week. So hit that like and subscribe button below. Also hit notifications if you want to get notified every time I have a video. And let me know what do you think of Mono Green. Did you like the deck that I played? Do you have a favorite card in Mono Green? Leave a comment below. And I will see you guys again next time.